One prism was fixed to the stable platform and the other was motorized. The theodolite in the bunker would communicate with the rocket and slowly rotate the motorized prism. Once the prism was in the correct orientation, it would reflect the beam of light back to the theodolite, where a set of mirrors would direct it onto a detector. Each prism was coated with a special material that would only reflect a specific wavelength of infrared light. This allowed the detector to plot exactly where each prism was relative to where it should be. Since the light left the prism at the same angle it entered, the orientation could be determined by how offset the outgoing and returning beams were on the detector. The theodolite system was so accurate that it could align the gimbal to within 1/1000th of a degree. Once the motorized prism was correctly positioned, a device would measure how much it had rotated relative to the stable platform. The motor on the inner gimbal would then rotate the stable platform by this exact amount. If everything was correct, the second prism would then line up perfectly and reflect the light back to the theodolite. This system worked perfectly, but it relied on the Saturn V being completely still. That wasn't always the case. When a rocket sits on the launch pad, strong winds can cause it to sway back and forth. This kind of movement would completely throw off the accuracy of the theodolite. And so, in order to get a reference for how much the rocket was swaying, the theodolite would focus on a third prism mounted to the outside of the rocket. This would shine the light back to the theodolite's detector, which would see it moving back and forth as the rocket swayed. The target points for the other two prisms could use this as a reference point. This system could account for the top of the rocket swaying more than 30 centimeters in either direction. All of these ingenious systems worked autonomously to reset the gyroscope until 15 seconds before launch. From there, the rocket was on its own, with the task of guiding it and 3 astronauts all the way from the launch pad to the translunar trajectory. And now, it's time for something really special. The winner of this awesome Space Shuttle canvas is Evan Larson. Sorry if you didn't win this time, but don't worry. We give away an awesome space prize in every. Next time, we'll be giving away this Falcon 9 framed print. All you have to do is sign up at the link below and leave a comment about your most controversial space opinion. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. This is the Space Shuttle, lifting off on what was about to become one of its its most dangerous journeys into space. Almost immediately, fuel started leaking out of its right engine, and just 5 seconds later, an electrical supply failed, knocking its engine control computers offline. Unaware of what was really going on beneath, they ran out of liquid oxygen. The shuttle had experienced two major problems that should have ended the mission, but miraculously, they happened in such a way that actually ended up saving the crew from. In order to understand why this flight was so dangerous in the first place, we need to look inside the shuttle's payload bay. It was carrying the Chandra Observatory telescope, which was the largest and heaviest thing shuttle ever launched. This combination put the mission over the shuttle's weight limit. It had to shave off several tons before the flight, and so the crew was limited to 5 people. A lighter external tank was used, and all 3 main engines were swapped out for lighter ones. One of these was Engine 2019, which had already flown on 18 missions, making it one of the most used space shuttle engines. Over time, cracks had started to show in a couple of its liquid oxygen posts. These are the thin pipes that carry liquid oxygen into the combustion chamber. If one of these failed mid-flight, it would rip the engine apart and destroy the entire vehicle. Instead of replacing a small metal pin at the top, which stopped the liquid oxygen from flowing through. This was common practice for NASA, and it saved the engine from going through a lengthy refurbishment. But as Space Shuttle Columbia ignited its engines, one of these metal pins worked its way loose and shot itself into the combustion chamber at over 30 meters per second. In the blink of an eye, it bounced off the chamber walls and punctured a hole in the delicate engine nozzle. This part of the engine is made up of over 1,000 thin tubes, which circulate the ultra-cold liquid hydrogen to stop the nozzle from melting. From here, the hydrogen makes its way into the combustion chamber, where it ignites and produces thrust. When the pin collided with the nozzle, it ripped a hole in 3 of the pipes, and liquid hydrogen began pouring out of the engine. If just 2 more of these pipes had been damaged, the nozzle would have melted, causing a chain reaction that would have completely destroyed the vehicle. The space shuttle was just barely hanging on, but all of this went completely unnoticed since none of the sensors could detect the leak. What the sensors did detect was a lower chamber pressure, since less hydrogen was making its way into the combustion chamber. In order to fix this, the onboard computers automatically started pumping more liquid oxygen into the engine, which brought the pressure back up to the correct amount. This meant that the shuttle was now burning through its liquid oxygen too quickly, and if it continued like this, it would run. A completely unrelated electrical problem had occurred in the vehicle, which put the shuttle offline, and it was no longer vulnerable to hackers. Just kidding, that isn't what happened. But did you know that Incogni, today's sponsor, can protect your pressure reading? Since the main computer wasn't there to cancel this out, it tricked the engine into thinking the pressure was too high. Because of this, the engine started pumping less liquid oxygen into the engine to reduce the pressure. This now meant that although the right engine was guzzling through too much oxygen, the center engine was using less than normal, and so the problems canceled each other out. If the center engine didn't have a faulty sensor, or if the electrical supply hadn't failed, the whole shuttle would have run out of liquid oxygen much sooner, and it wouldn't have reached orbit. Had this actually happened, the crew would have had to make an aborted landing back on Earth, still carrying the enormous telescope on their backs. By sheer coincidence, 2 completely separate problems occurred that perfectly canceled each other out, allowing shuttle to reach orbit just 5 meters per second off its desired speed. In the end, the shuttle was able to make up for this by using its OM
Details we're following tonight, the case of Today anchor Savannah Guthrie's missing mother. The Pima County, Arizona Sheriff's Office now believes Nancy Guthrie was kidnapped over the weekend.
But that's not all. Mark Cota-Robles is live in our newsroom with an update. Mark.
Yeah, Giovanna and David, a very concerning update here. The Pima County Sheriff's Department said it is reviewing possible ransom notes related to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Our ABC affiliate in Tucson received one of those letters. TMZ got another. Officials say that they are investigating if any of these letters are legitimate. The ABC station in Tucson says the ransom note they received makes a specific demand for several $1 million in Bitcoin, a form of cryptocurrency, by Thursday, and threatens to kill her if payment is not received by Monday. Investigators believe the 84-year-old daughter of Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie was kidnapped from her Tucson home over the weekend. They found her cell phone inside the home along with life-saving medication. Despite efforts to obtain surveillance, no suspect information has been released, no photos, no video, no clear motive. The sheriff said DNA samples have been taken from the home, but the sheriff has not confirmed if that DNA was blood. He did say the DNA has not led to any suspects. The sheriff said unless something breaks, he does not plan to speak again until Thursday. Live here in the newsroom, Mark Cota-Robles, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. David, back to you.
Hello. And regionally, dude. Hey, dude. Some songs are banned regionally. It happens all the time, especially when I start playing music and stuff. That's the reason why my morning shows don't show up a lot of times too, unless you tune into it live. Or I play all the unsigned bands I have. I guess, yeah. It's the reason why I don't have monetization for the real reason. It's because I want to be able to play that without having to get a strike. If I was monetized, I would have got a strike for those probably. A Balance was in earlier demanding that I drop everybody's, but he didn't realize, and he keeps gaslighting that everybody is always banned and stuff